Today, Rick and I are going to talk about the last couple of weeks of printing workshops and what we've learned and how much fun we've had, and just share some insights into printing here in the studio. Well, hey everyone, it's Hudson, and we're all lucky to have Rick with me here in the studio, here in Printerville, and we have been printing.
Yes.
We've been printing a ton, and we've had 11. We did lose one person to a medical issue, but we've had, prior to the workshop beginning, no one was injured in the printing process, but we've had 11 great people in here printing up a storm on a bunch of different papers on a bunch of different printers. We've been facilitating that, and it's been fun.
It is. It's one of the most fun workshops we do. I just love it. It's like a big lab. Everyone is different. You come in and people have different things they want to do. They've got ideas about what they want to print. Sometimes they want to print big. We've got this big printer back there. This last workshop, we had 4 people of the 6 who bought these amazing EcoTank printers from Epson.
The really economical, high quality, easy to use. I actually did a video on those last year. If you didn't see it, you can just click right here or go in this video's description for the 8500, 8550 video. It's a great printer.
Yes, and it makes people want to print. It's great. And the first workshop we had a couple of people who were really interested in black and white printing. And then we have a shelf full of media so that people can play and try different paper types and stuff
from
like
different
that.
companies. We got Canons, Epsons. It's been a lot of fun. And like you said, each time we do one of these workshops, you think, well, it'd probably be similar to the last one, but no, everybody's got kind of a different priority coming out of it. We had a person in each workshop who'd done the workshops prior. We had repeat printing workshop participants, which is pretty awesome.
It is pretty great. It is pretty great. It's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. I mean, we love printing. I mean, Hudson and I have been printing for years and years and years.
Since before we met each other,
And it's just wonderful because it's not enough people print their images, but we talk to plenty of people who want to get into it and want to think about it. And it's so much fun when the light goes off for people. It's funny, the first day is always kind of chaotic. We do a little presentation, we take a lot of questions, and then it's sort of like getting set up and
drivers and ICC profiles and getting people's monitors calibrated and explaining why all those are important.
And then the second and third and the last day are all just fun. I mean, people are just printing left and right. You'd think that there'd be, people lined up at printers, but it's not. It just all somehow works. And it's just as collegial as our field workshops.
Oh, no. Everybody's cheering each other on and working together. And which paper do you think this looks better on? And wow, this surprises me. This paper's cheaper than that paper, and yet I like the look of it better. And people like me who, my tastes keep evolving, and Rick's been pushing me towards fine art papers for a really long time, and I'm starting to like the bells kind of going off, like when my mentors in the past would say there's a little too much saturation here. It's like there's a little too much shine here, and I've got to say I've learned a bunch.
Well, and it's fun because it's just like the field workshops where you're out in the field and you are just working with your camera the whole time with a bunch of people who love photography. It's the same in the print workshops, and I find we work just as much. We're working on things. I mean. This week I finally got off my butt and I started work on my little Cuba doorways project from our summer, just going through and doing proofs. I've been working on my portfolio for quite a while, and so I'm getting to the point where I'm choosing the photos, and I've got, the final prints of the things that I want to do. And
hold that one up. I love that image.
One. And this is an older image of mine, but it still prints beautifully.
Birds over the theater.
And then, the goal of my portfolio project is to have a 16 by 20 of all of my portfolio images, matted and everything. And it's like, it's nice to spend some time working on that a little bit while we're also sort of helping other people print and do their own projects.
One of the neat things for me is kind of sponging off Rick's deep level understanding of printing. I think, we come at it from a little bit different. You have such a deep rooted understanding of printing from the beginning of inkjet printing. And I came into it a little later than you, and I found a couple of papers that I loved, and I learned to print on my papers. And you have, literally, like Rick introduces himself to the workshop as like, "Hi, I'm Rick, and I have a paper problem." And you look around our workshop, and there's, I don't know how many kinds of paper.
48 different types of paper.
48 different types of paper here. And I have this paper that I have for over a decade loved that no longer is produced. It's Ilford Gold Fiber Silk. I'm sure some of you out there have used it yourself. It was a beautiful Baryta paper that didn't have a lot of texture, and it had just a lot of ink would lay down.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful paper. Beautiful paper. They quit making it, and I have stockpiled. I have searches running.
Yeah, there's a couple of rolls up there on the shelf.
Couple of big boxes of large sizes. But I'm, the stock is running low, and I start to fret. And last year I looked and tried all of Rick's papers, and I got close, but not quite there. And then this year, I literally have been going, I took an image. This is kind of fun. I've been more focused on just a few images and then printing them across a broad variety of papers. And one thing that was kind of fun for me was this image from Cuba. I should hold up the bigger one. Right here, which is one of my favorites from Cuba.
Wonderful image.
And it's shot with my Z6 originally, the original Z6, right after I switched to mirrorless. And the 105 1.4 f mount lens on it. And so a Nikon 24 megapixel camera, and it required a little cropping and straightening. And I lost a couple elements that I loved in the image in that process. And now it's like the software has come around to where we have this enhanced panel in Lightroom Classic that either can do denoise for really noisy images or super resolution. And I took what was cropped to about a 19 megapixel image, applied super resolution to it, and took it up closer to 90 megapixels, and then did a little generative fill on the parts of the image when I rotated the crop so that I could keep the reflection of my license plate in the puddle here that I'd lost in rotating and straightening the image before. And then started printing it on a wide variety of papers because it has really dark shadows and really bright highlights. And I went through, and how many papers do you think I printed? I printed this on
at least a dozen,
At least a dozen, I would say. Fine art and Barytas and luster papers. And I found a couple papers that I think are just about as nice as Ilford Gold Fiber Silk. And I'll say that I think that the Legacy Platine from Epson, which is a beautiful paper, Rick has started falling in love with that paper, as well as Canson's Prestige 2 Baryta are both really equivalent. I also really like Moab Juniper, which I found last year when we were doing the workshops. And then I've been printing, then I printed it on Epson's Legacy Fiber, which I have decided I've fallen in love with.
It is a beautiful paper. That's what this is printed on, is Legacy Fiber.
As well as this Legacy Platine, which is also just a spectacular paper and optimized. Our Epson printers work really well with Epson papers as well as others. And then I did some other work where I printed, test printed on cheaper luster paper, but then tried images that I would have thought really required more of a luster or Baryta paper to get the blacks and the colors, and printed those on Legacy Fiber instead.
Legacy Fiber is an amazing paper, but
Legacy Fiber is a fine art paper. It doesn't have it's a matte finish with matte inks, which don't get you as dark a blacks or as bright a whites, but man.
Well, and that's one of the things that one of my goals in the workshop always is to at least try and get rid of some of those preconceived notions that people have about printing on fine art media, that you're not going to get good blacks. And there are many images that won't work on a fine art paper, but there are many that do. And it's always great when someone's been printing on luster and some Baryta papers, and they say, well, why don't you try this paper, this fine art paper, and they print it out, and it's like, wow, You know, that's the most fun in the workshop to me, is just watching people get that wow moment.
I also love, you know, Rick does the lectures on color spaces and profiling and a color managed workflow, which sounds about as dry a topic as you could get, but everyone's curious about it because we hear about it all the time and it's rarely explained well for the person who's not versed in it to understand. And I think Rick's presentation and style are great with that, and I see people start to click, oh, well, that's how Adobe RGB and ProPhoto RGB and sRGB and the color space of the monitor and the color space of that's how they interact and fit together. And Gamut, what is that? You know, people start to understand, click, and then we start working with all those concepts. And all of a sudden, their prints aren't so dark. And all of a sudden, their prints are the color that they expected them to be. And it's just fun.
And they get an understanding of how to edit for the print, which, as both of us talk about, the better a printer you become, the better photographer you will be. They all go together in this circle. You know,
I remember, and I'll credit Michael Reichman and Jeff Shuey from back in the day in the Luminous Landscape website and the courses that they used to teach on printing long ago. I mean, the printers have come a ways since then. But I learned to print from watching those guys' videos way back. And I started going after my portfolio at that time, which is before I even met you, and realizing how many of my favorite images were not up to spec for printing. You start realizing I wasn't critically sharp. I didn't expose this properly. It's getting messed up trying to get the contrast right for printing. And you start approaching your field work in a different way with an eye towards what's going to make a good print. And coming home, editing, printing, and then going back out in the field, that iterative process leads to becoming a much more demanding photographer.
And a better editor.
All of it, exactly. So this has been a ton of fun.
It is. We'll do more.
We'll do more. And I just think there's rarely is there a more sort of fun, collaborative group winter activity indoors where we all have a really good time. And I think everybody that comes through these workshops comes out the other side feeling like, wow, I just learned a lot. So, and I know I do. So
yeah, me too.
When do we have office hours?
A couple weeks.
A couple weeks. All right. Well, probably
3 or 4 days after this airs.
Okay. All right. So it may well be the Tuesday. Go over to hudsonhenry.com/office hours. Click this link right here, and you'll see when office hours is going to be next. Big free photography get-together group meetup where we take your questions. You can sign up to join us on YouTube Live or on Zoom, and hopefully we will see you there. We're gearing up, going into workshop season. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming.
We do.
What's next?
Charleston.
Charleston pre-Mazatlan.
Charleston, Mazatlan, and Costa Rica.
It's going to be fun.
A month and a half of fun.
Month and a half of fun. Yeah, tons of fun with a great bunch of people. So, all right, everybody. I hope you have all been staying safe, staying creative. You have questions about printing or comments, throw them in the comments on this channel, or email Rick and I. We're always game to hear what you're thinking. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next week.
Yep.